Many players know that some killers in Dead by Daylight have quite a bit of unused sound effects, and Michael Myers, who is one of the oldest characters in the game, is no exception to this. You might have already heard the killer's secret chase music, since a lot of people have showcased it before. It sounds like this. But very few players remember that back in the early days of Dead by Daylight, the Shape sometimes used to play this incredibly creepy sound. Check it out. According to the DBD Wiki, this sample from the Hedge would play whenever Michael Myers was close to tearing up, although some players also claim that this could be heard if the Shape had been stalking you for an extended period of time. This was later removed for balance reasons, since the developers thought that it gave survivors too much information. However, in the game files there exist several other unused audio effects for Michael Myers, including this one. And this one. Furthermore, the original version of Haddonfield featured some pretty unnerving sounds too. Take a listen. Honestly, all of these audio effects sound so ominous, and to be fair, they kind of remind me of Minecraft cave noises. In my humble opinion, it's a shame that most of them are currently unutilized, but hopefully the developers decide to implement them sometime in the future, perhaps with the future Michael Myers rework that is in all honesty long overdue. Moving on, most of you might know how the old Hex Ruin functioned prior to its eventual rework in patch 3.5.0. Basically, good skill checks would regress the generator by -5%, while great skill checks did not award any bonus progression. But did you know that the very original version of this perk did not even affect all survivors? Yeah, well, as you can see, only the tier 3 version of Ruin had an effect on all 4 survivors, since tier 2 only affected 3, while tier 1 just 2. Personally, I didn't know about this until very recently, when I read this exact description from the DBD Wiki. Speaking of the Flesh and Mud chapter, which is when this perk was released, veteran players also remember that when the hack first came out, her trap setting speed was ridiculously slow. Like, I guarantee that the video on screen has not been slowed down, and it's really interesting to see how differently players perceived the game back then, since right before this match, True Talent said the following.
I don't think she puts the trap. I think her traps are quite fast to putting down. Okay, them two together look good.
Obviously, the hack's trap setting speed back in the early days of the game would be completely unacceptable by today's standards. Something else that is mostly remembered among old Dead by Daylight players is what I call inconsistent T&L Walls. This refers to the several ways in which TL walls varied from one another on different realms. For instance, the developers experimented a lot with randomization on the TL walls in Coldwind Farm. Sometimes a pallet could spawn at the place of the window on the T wall, while other times one of the window votes would literally not get generated at all, resulting in a pretty weak tile. The TL walls in Autohaven Wreckers were also pretty interesting, since they always spawned a pallet in between the L wall and the locker corner. The only realm that didn't have these shenanigans was the Macmillan estate, where they would always spawn 2 consistent window votes and nothing else. Of course, today this is the case with all TL walls, regardless of the realm. Another DBD feature that OG players remember is that originally the Wraith had the same hit cooldown animation as the Trapper. As you can see, the Wraith does the same weapon cleaning motion, and in fact things stayed like this for the entirety of 2016 and I think also a part of 2017, up until the killer was given his own animation where he sort of flicks his weapon just like how he currently does. In addition, originally the Wraith did not have any kind of unique animation when cloaking or uncloaking. Instead, he simply just kind of appeared out of nowhere, and the sounds of his belt seemingly had no origin. They were very sporadic and overall sounded kind of weird. Now, when the developers were confronted on a livestream about this, McLean tried to pass off the bell as simply being invisible, as you know, this is essentially the killer's power.
There's a great question here. Where's his bell? That is a really good question.
Well-
and would anyone on the programming team like to fill us in on that?
The bell is invisible. It's an invisibility bell. He has a point.
Funnily enough, according to the developers, there was actually a bell item and programmed animations for the Wraith that were already somewhere in the game files when the game was first released. But because of some bugs in the spaghetti code of Dead by Daylight, they apparently left the bell somewhere on a developer map and then forgot where it was and lost it?
I imagined that someone put it down at some point, because at one point it was an actual interactive item,
Yep,
and the
yep.
bell could actually be placed on the ground.
Yeah.
And due to that bug, at some point someone turned it off and we never turned it
We
back
never
on,
turned it
but
back
I'm
on.
sure it's fucking... But I just remember that day. And it was like, did I put the bell on the ground? And then it was not in my hand, and then it never came back again for that.
You dropped the bell.
It's like someone dropped it in a level and no one ever found it again. That's pretty much where I am on that.
It's in the
How about,
entities lost and found box right now.
Exactly.
Pick up the bell DLC.
There you go. It's coming soon in November. Confirmed.
Confirmed
Pick
new
up,
chapter.
Pick up.
Now, although the developers here are just joking and goofing around, when the 1.3.0 update was introduced during December of 2016, the Wraith did in fact receive his own bell animations when transitioning from the spirit world. By the way, if you are interested in more of this stuff, I do strongly suggest that you check out this whole developer livestream that I've linked in the description below, since they go a lot more in depth on all kinds of interesting things of this nature. Moving on, only OG Dead by Daylight players remember when the Shrine of Secrets was located on the right sidebar of the lobby UI. But wait a second, isn't this where the shrine currently is? Well, yes. But for a very long part of its existence, the Shrine of Secrets was located at the store section. However, it seems that with the recent update to the store, the developers have made the decision to return the shrine to its original location. Funnily enough though, right after the update, some players were incredibly confused and had absolutely no idea where the shrine was. Additionally, more seasoned players may also remember that there was a switch roll button that existed in the game during its early days, but that one was removed since it was able to cause some pretty game-breaking glitches, like for instance equipping survivor perks on killer, equipping killer powers on survivors and so on. A quick play button was also in DBD at one point, but virtually no one ever used it, therefore it was retired from the game. Well, I guess that was it. We went through several DBD features that are mostly remembered among OG players of the game. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and that you learned something new from it. If you did, then make sure to let me know by clicking the like button, and also I would be glad if you would consider subscribing as well. Anyways, thank you all for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!